Now that you're saying yeah, now that you've saying it correctly, it is Suzy. Like, and there's a part of me that kind of like substitutes that with Suzy, and I know that's subconsciously wrong, so I say Saucy because again, I know it's not supposed to be Suzy. Again, my head works really weird when it comes to names and languages and stuff like that. It's amazing I can speak English at all, quite frankly. Alright, a little bit of a heads up with this episode. There is a little bit of a spoiler for the last 2 episodes of Little Witch Academia, but I'm going to throw this section of the episode until after the end credits of the very end of the episode, just so that there are no spoilers during the show itself. Again, it's not a very big thing that we spoil, but in case you don't want anything spoiled for you for Little Witch Academia, we're going to throw this at the very end of the show. So just a little bit of a heads up for you. Welcome to another episode of the weekly Motion Canon, the Wave Motion Podcast. That is anime that we cover weekly. I am your host, CJ Hitchcock, and this week I am joined by IBCF and Suri Bots. And this week...
Hey. Hello.
But yes, this week we are going to be talking about Little Witch Academia. And it is pretty good. I like it quite a bit. So, what are your just general thoughts on this show before we dive too specific into just details and whatnot? Do you guys enjoy the show and whatnot? And maybe kind of establish how much of it you have seen, because that will be a talking point that we'll be going on for a little bit.
It was hard to get somebody who watched the whole thing.
Well, I mean, legally, yes, but...
That's fine. I watched the whole show pretty much as... well, I've watched the whole show, so... wonder how I did that. But, you know, I liked...
Time travel.
Pretty much, like, all of it. It did feel like just as a short exam... before we go too deep into it, like you said, it felt like a couple chunks of it was, like, spinning its wheels and just being, like, fun and not advancing its plot. But I feel like it... In the end, it like did enough. Like I liked it overall.
Okay, and your thoughts, IBCF?
Yeah, same. I also saw the whole thing. I mean, I kind of agree with Pat. You know, it wasn't always, there was some filler, I guess, but I tend to enjoy the fun filler stuff, so I didn't have much of a problem with that. And yeah, great ending, great characters, great fantasy setting. Love the whole thing.
Cool. Yes, I enjoyed it quite a bit myself, at least the stuff that I have seen.
How far did you
Well,
get?
I have only gotten as far as Netflix will let me. So to segue into that,
Right.
So if you don't know, or if you've been living under a rock for a while, Netflix is the one who has the property for this, for Little Witch Academia. And how they've decided to handle this is that even though the show was running in the winter 2017 season, they didn't release the show until pretty much just this last month in June. And we've been having to wait for this show for Netflix to just kind of drop it all at once, because they're very heavy into the whole entire binge-watching idea and mindset. And on top of that, they didn't release the entire show. They've just released the first 13 episodes of the series. So, because of that, if you want to watch the show legally, you're going to have to wait till probably winter of this year in December, because that tends to be how Netflix does things, is release things every 6 months. So this literally just happened. Like, I was exporting this audio file, and as this was exporting, the second season of Little Witch Academia is up on Netflix right now, so now you can watch all 26 episodes on Netflix. So everything we just said about this whole entire point, completely mute. You don't have to wait anymore. It's right up there on Netflix. Again, this just now happened, like, without warning. Like, yeah, whatever. I'm happy that it's up, but still, like, yeah, more of a heads up would have been nice. Now, this has been kind of a hot topic for a couple of people, because it doesn't... Netflix's overall goal does not really mesh with what current anime fans want. Would you guys say that's kind of, like, a fair assessment?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah,
I mean...
absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Also, if it is on an every 6 month schedule, like you were saying, they did say that Fate Apocrypha is coming out in November, so that would probably be when the rest of Little Witch Academia is coming out.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
If it is every 6 months, like you said it is, I don't know if that's.
I don't know. Well, whenever I try and follow something on Netflix, like, say, like Legends of Tomorrow, just to throw a random show in there that I watch, like, it tends to be like they'll put on the new season every year or every 6 months, depending on how fast the season is going. So, like, just kind of following the pattern from kind of their release schedule for a lot of different things. It's either once a year or every 6 months, and for Little Witch it better be 6 months because the show is long since over at this point.
Yeah, I've noticed that when stuff seems to go off Netflix, a bunch of stuff seems to go off all at once. So it's probably just some method of like keeping the contracts at roughly, like, at least like easy to maintain on their end, I guess.
Well, and the other thing with this one is that because this is pretty much a Netflix property, that they're kind of treating it as their own thing. Like, you know, kind of like throw Trigger out the window with this kind of conversation. Netflix kind of sees this as their own thing. I think they'll probably put it on a bit of a faster track to get this done, because this is pretty much just like a Netflix exclusive and whatnot. So it's...
Okay, so you say that, but, like, as I just pointed out, if that's when the second half of Little Witch Academia is coming out, like, Fate Apocrypha is airing this season. And...
yeah.
Like, alright, whatever. Sure, whatever they want to do.
Yeah, I can hear all the old Taku just kind of, you know, listen like, oh, these goddamn millennials, they can't wait for shit. Like, back in my day, we had to wait 6 months to a year for 2 episodes of a VHS tape, and it cost us $60 each. Like, okay.
Counterpoint. Everyone had to wait 6 months. Other people didn't get it early.
Right.
Like, it's not the same discussion.
Well, it not only that, but, like, you know, things change and advance. And, yeah, this isn't like the old days, unfortunately. You know, things are new and fresh, and the kids want things as soon as possible. Like, it's kind of nuts. Again, like, it's just, like, with a lot of people, they wanted to watch the show as soon as they could, because it is the hot new thing. And I do kind of worry about shows being, like, kind of treated as the new hot thing, like things aren't meant to last with anime anymore. Like, they're just like, I need to watch it now, or else it's going to be, like, it's going to crumble into dust and I'll never see it, or I'll never appreciate it like it's supposed to be. You know, I kind of worry about that mindset a little bit, because it kind of seems like, I don't know, like, when a show disappears from the season, it just kind of falls off the face of the earth for a lot of people. Like, it doesn't seem like a lot of people go back and watch things, like, after it's done, or whatnot. So, like, do you guys kind of agree with that mindset, or?
I feel like in terms of what our sphere of conversation around anime is, which, for me at least, is largely Twitter, in that it is mostly, hey, here's what's on now. But, like, outside of people who are, like, deep into this like we are, that it's just, like, most people don't keep up with everything. Like, Netflix's model is actually a fairly good model for most people. Like, most people will, after somebody else comes and tells them, yo, this show's real good, they'll be like, okay, I'll go watch that show. And then they watch the whole thing on Netflix, and then they're happy. And then maybe for that thing later, they, like, keep up with it. But I feel like, generally speaking, like, the wider market, like, at least for American watchers, even for anime, like, it will... when something is done is when the most people will overall see it. It's just that when something is airing, I feel, is when the most people overall will be talking about it.
Okay, that's a fair point.
Also, is Netflix dubbing the show?
Yes, Netflix is dubbing the show,
Yes.
and
Yes, it is.
I like the dub quite a bit. I think it's probably one of the better dubs that they've done, and it's pretty damn good. Like, I really like how much effort that they put into the dub, and I think that while yes, I am kind of upset that we had to wait 6 months for this thing, I think the wait has been worth it because of just how much effort they put into this dub, and to kind of get into my dub arguments, like, I think when people say, like, oh, this is a bad dub, I don't think it's necessarily the performances. And I'm primarily talking about new age kind of dubs. When people say newer dubs are bad, like, I don't necessarily think it's the performances that are bad. I think it's the sound design and editing that the dub has is bad. Like, it always kind of seems like one of the main differences between when I watch something in Japanese and when I watch something dubbed is, like, the background music is a little off. There's not as much ambient noise. There's not as much, like background chatter going on. Like, it pretty much just kind of seems like a lot of the time it's like they just take the background music from the OVA and the dub track, and that's it. Like, they don't bother with too many other sound effects or, like, subtle little things that you will hear in a soundtrack. And I think that's the big thing that a lot of people pick up on, but they don't know exactly what it is, and they can't point to it. Because like, when you listen to stuff like that, like, I think the big case in point is, like, Sentai film works, like, during the early 2010s in particular. It just kind of seems like that's the main issue, is their sound design overall for this dub, as opposed to just bad performances. Because, again, like, you listen to it and it's just like, man, this seems off, and it's not the performance, it's just, like, everything around it. And to get back to Netflix and Little Witch Academia, they've nailed all that. Like, they really do a good job with keeping those sound effects, making sure that lip flaps and everything else matches, and everyone has a really fun, energetic voice. Like, there's no one who's sleeping through a performance with this one, and it's, like, it's really good. Like, it is a really good, fun dub. So.
Okay, yeah. I know what you're talking about when it comes to, like, audio mixing. I've definitely run across that in dubs in past years, but it's also been a while since I've listened to the dub.
Yeah, same.
Like, it's been a bit. I probably will, like, watch Little Witch again on Netflix when it's actually, like, done. Because, like, I'll watch the dub, sure, why not?
Yeah, it's curious to
absolutely.
see how they did it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's also really nice because it's the same dub cast that they got from the OVA, the two separate OVAs that came before this. So, like, they kind of stay consistent with it as well. So that's also a really nice, welcomed change. Yeah.
Oh yeah, did Netflix do the OVA dubs?
That was also Netflix.
Was that someone else? Oh.
Yeah, and
Cool.
honestly,
Yeah,
I think that was the big thing when it came to why Netflix got the Little Witch Academia license, is because they're the ones that picked up the OVA originally. And I think that kind of gave them a foot in the door a little bit early before everybody else. So, I don't know. Yeah. And to kind of talk about those OVAs for a little bit, I think it is really, really cool that these were OVAs that were kickstarted, in case you weren't aware. Just the fact that this was a Kickstarter that, Trigger and everyone else was just like, hey, we have this thing, we're not able to get it passed, what do you guys think? Let's go ahead and try and kickstart this thing. And they were able to make a short from it, a really damn good short, and, like, it's kind of grown and blossomed into this whole big thing, and it's kind of developed its own fandom. And I think as, like, a small indie project, I mean, small considering that it's Studio Trigger, but still, like, an independent project was able to blow up like this. Like, I think that's really cool about the show in particular. So, like, and I think some people kind of forget because it is Studio Trigger and whatnot, and they're kind of, known for, like, the Kill the Kills and the Gurren Lagans and whatnot. So, like, I
yeah, it's been so established for so long, I forgot. Yeah, it started out as a Kickstarter. Yeah.
So, like, that's something that I really kind of love and admire about this particular franchise in particular. But yeah, so what is it about the show that you guys like, and above like anything else? Is there any big standout things that kind of make the show different from everything else that you've seen, or at least things that Studio Trigger have done?
It's hard to put just into words, because I feel like there's a kind of, like... I enjoyed Kill la Kill, but I feel like a lot of it, like, it's hard to... this is a difficult question.
Akko.
Akko is probably... that's hard to... that's hard for me to, like... Okay. I don't dislike Akko, and I do like her at least a little bit, but, like, most of the rest of the cast is kind of what brought me episode to episode, because for a good chunk in the middle, it kind of feeling like Akko kept learning a lesson and then being reverted to her previous state to then learn a different lesson. Like,
yeah, because to kind of branch off of that, I do kind of think that this is very much an episodic series as opposed to like a long-running story, and I do...
Except when it's not.
But still, like, I do really like the episodic nature of this series and whatnot, and I do like the episodes, like the one episode where her professor is a fish, and she needs to, she accidentally, like, flushes the teacher down the toilet, and she needs to go rescue her. Like, that's a great episode. Like, I really enjoyed that one.
Yeah.
Just because of the silliness of everything that is going on in there. And, like, I'm completely okay with kind of her having, like, a reset every episode, because, again, like, I find her to be a fun character to watch.
Yeah,
so.
I mean...
Okay,
if she wasn't a screw-up, then she wouldn't be Akko.
So here's the thing is, when it's being episodic, I'm fine with that, but when they bring in, like, the 7 words and stuff, and the same problem persists, it feels a little less acceptable, since she is, like, not only explicitly supposed to be, like, learning lessons and, like, growing as a person, but also it is, like, part of an advancing plot line, is when I kind of have that as an issue. Of, like, for those bits, it kind of feels like, Akko, like, 5 minutes ago, you learned this lesson. What are you doing? But no,
yeah,
actually, like,
I can
a
see
lot
that.
of the early stuff was, like, fun, and I liked it, but I honestly, like, kind of was really digging it, like, when it got to Craw and all of that, like, when it got to, like, an overarching storyline, I really, really liked it. It just felt that, like, maybe you guys should have, like, done that a little earlier to pace it better, and, like, maybe mix in some of the earlier episodic episodes, some of the earlier bits with that story. Like, it didn't feel rushed necessarily, but I feel like it's hard to say. I feel like there was an overarching storyline that you could kind of intuit from early on in the show with, like, Shiny Chariot and, like, stuff that you would just see from the OVA and a bunch of that. And when, like, the words and stuff came into it, it kind of, like... It was like, oh, this is a different... This is the overarching story? I thought the overarching story was something... Okay, no, this is fine. But, like, it like, whereas with Kill la Kill, like, when the overarching storyline became the overarching storyline, like, it was some wild shit, but it didn't feel like it had become a different show in a like, Kill la Kill...
So you're saying it's like
Kill la Kill became a different show in the way that, like, Gurren Lagann became a different show, although not as good. But, like, it became a different show in a way that felt, like, natural and was a progression, whereas Little Witch Academia was the same show throughout. It's just kind of like, and here's the plot. And I'm like, oh, okay, all right.
Yeah, they kind of, like, shifted gears
I
all
didn't
of a
think it was
sudden.
bad. I just didn't think it was, like, particularly well telegraphed when they shifted over to it.
Mm-hmm.
Which...
Yeah, I can see that.
Did you get to any of that,
I'm
CJ?
actually not 100% sure, because, like, a lot of the stuff that I've been watching has been kind of episodic content, so...
Okay. Have you seen the white-haired teacher wears
No.
red? Oh, okay. All right. So, okay. Not white.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She didn't come until later
Okay,
yet.
not white hair. It's purple hair. What am I talking about? I'm sorry, lilac. Have not seen this person yet.
Craw.
No, it's Craw, like LaCroix, like, oh god, it's
Craw. Croix.
Croix. Yeah, let's go with Croix, the most American pronunciation of this French name. Sure. It is pronounced in a way that my mouth does not want to do. like, my brain knows how it's pronounced, and if I heard someone pronounce it wrong, I'd be like, that's wrong, but my mouth just doesn't want to do it correctly.
I more than understand that, because that seems to be like whenever there is any kind of Japanese name that's longer than 3 syllables, and I'm just, my mouth is like, nope, you're not supposed to speak for that long in one breath. Like...
But yeah, okay, yeah, so you haven't gotten to, like, the overarching plot stuff
probably
yet.
Not. But, again, I'm blaming Netflix for this, so...
Oh, yeah, no, that's Netflix's fault. I think even if you hit 13, you wouldn't have, because I think it's, like, 14 or 15 that actually does that, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of gets into the story pretty late into the run, now that you mention it. I mean, she doesn't introduce this character until
14.
later on, yeah.
I'm sorry, I just popped up an image that has the subtitle, "Everyone, allow me to introduce you to the new teacher of modern magic, Professor Craw," with the, like, file name Little Witch Academia episode 14. Okay, well, that solves that.
So that would explain that. And if Netflix is listening, again, I would have been better prepared if you guys had stepped up your game. So I'm blaming this completely on Netflix.
Yeah.
But yeah, so, like, I don't know, for me, one of the things that I really like about the show that makes it stand out for me is just the fact that it is so family-friendly. That is, like, it has been forever since I have seen an anime series where I feel like you could watch this with small children. Like, yeah.
Okay.
By Trigger,
so that's actually part of where I'm at. Is I've discovered I like Trigger's weirdness a lot more when they are forced to be family friendly. Like when they need to be confined into that bubble of, like, family friendliness, that I kind of like what they do a bit more. Actually, Trigger is just Gynax without some of the money people. Like, it's functionally like a lot of the same, like, creative directors, even if there's a lot of, like, individual staff that is not from Gynax.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, Gurren Lagann just is an example of, like, it's just like, alright, here's the episodes with all of the tits. Here's the unsafe for the television. Or, like, just... I don't... Or, like, even Kill la Kill is an example where, like, I like Kill la Kill, but, like, a lot of that was, like, excessive, and I don't really... Because, like... Kill la Kill did some stuff with, like, its weird fan service of, like, literally making the idea of, like, clothing as, like, shackles and, like, something that for, like, like, literally the idea of being physically clothed as being physically restricted. It's kind of neat, but also it's just like, no, but it's because we want the people to be hot.
Yeah. It's just an excuse for fan service, really.
Really, they're like, it's because it, like, just as it's like clothes as this like metaphorical and literal restriction that is placed on the body, where it's like a prison of the. Also, everyone's real hot, and look at the boob, look at the butt.
Well,
it's just like, okay, cool, you did a real good thing, and it's just like, also.
Well, to kind of bring it back to like one of the things that I was kind of having an issue with a lot of the modern anime, because, like, I love My Hero Academia. I don't know if I would let anyone under the age of 13 watch it, though, because of Mineta. Like, Mineta is one of those characters where it's just like every time he comes out on screen, it's like he has to make a sex joke or grope a character, and it's just like, I don't think I would ever let kids watch something like that, because, again, like, that's just kind of vulgar and something kind of odd, and that's a shame, because My Hero Academia is a really good show. Well, Little Witch Academia doesn't have any of that shit in it. Like, it is one of those things where it's just like, it is everything that is great about Trigger, where it is very, very loud and exciting and bombastic and, like, cartoonish in the best ways possible. And it's completely and totally appropriate for everyone to watch, and I kind of like that. Like, I really enjoy that we finally kind of have this show where you can be like, hey, Grandma, I'm going to watch this show. You want to watch it with me? Like, that would be,
Yeah, no, it's refreshing.
Yeah, which kind of on a on a little bit of a side tangent, like when 4Kids was doing the One Piece stuff, and I was watching it for a little bit. Like, this was like eons ago. Like, my dad used to really like the 4Kids version of One Piece because he was just like, hey, this reminds me of Looney Tunes. Now, granted, we didn't really get to any of the vulgar sex stuff that's in it because it was the 4Kids version. But, like, still, like, those kind of moments are really good to have with shows. And I kind of wish anime would do stuff like that more often instead of kind of falling to the regular, like, stigmatisms that kind of come with anime. Primarily, it's adolescent humor, which that's all it really is at the end of the day. It's just kind of sex jokes for awkward kids. Like, you know, like, that's... But yeah, so, like, that for me is the biggest thing that kind of stands out for me with this particular show. And just the fact that it's just really good. Like, it is just a really fun show to sit down and just kind of enjoy and just kind of watch the characters do their thing.
Well, your favorite episode, Emiushi
Yes.
one, that was some of the craziest stuff I've seen lately this year, probably.
Yeah, for clarification...
Man, all the references just a mile a minute.
Yeah, we're talking about the Saucy episode, where we go inside of Saucy's head, the purple one. Sucy.
Sucy, yeah.
I keep wanting to say Saucy because it's like Sauy and whatnot, so in my head I see that as Saucy.
Is that
She is saucy.
Is that how they spell it in the Netflix subs?
I'm going off of memory, so like that's what I want to say. It's
Okay,
how they spell it.
Because I've only ever seen it spelled as Sucy,
Maybe.
and it's
Yeah, I think they say it, Sucy.
and it's
yeah,
literally
right?
like the conifer
No,
is just
now that
sushi.
you're saying it, yeah, now that you've saying it correctly, it is Suzy. Like, and there's a part of me that kind of like substitutes that with Suzy, and I know that's subconsciously wrong, so I say Saucy because again, I know it's not supposed to be
Okay.
Suzy. Again, my head works
Okay.
really weird when it comes to names and languages and stuff like that. It's amazing I can speak English at all, quite frankly, but. But yeah, that episode is just so much fun and just like there's just so many great visual gags going on throughout the entirety of that episode. Like it's just like they even kind of replicate like black and white Disney era Steamboat Willie kind of animation at one point, and
Yeah, Takafumi Hori did that part, I think. The guy did the Steven Universe scene
Nice.
also.
and
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, he did that one episode. The what was that song called?
yeah, here comes
Oh, the Here Comes a Thought.
It's
Yeah,
about, Garnet talking about how to stay connected as fusion, but I hear Josh in my head going, "This isn't about Western animation. Shut up." But
I feel like we are creating an image of Josh that might, to the casual listener, be not quite representative of our good friend Josh.
oh, I mean, yeah, but at the same time, it is really fun to build this image of Josh.
At the same time, he did threaten to fire us if we talked about anything that wasn't anime.
Well, yeah, and, like, just as a quick side tangent, like, I want to sit here and just tell you all to just go and watch Ultraman Geed because it is so freaking amazing and awesome. I don't know what freaking is, but that's how good the show is. It just makes up nonsense words in my head to describe awesome. And, like, I want to go on about that show forever, but no, Josh won't let me. Again, like, I want to make Ultraman Geed anime of the year, but no, it's not anime to him, apparently, just because it has live action in it. Like, yeah, he's missing out. That's all I have to say. Like, go watch Ultraman Geed and Little Witch Academia, so let's go ahead and talk about Little Witch Academia again, because I am kind of getting off topic. So...
yeah. So Western animation. I mean, speaking of which, it's pretty Western inspired. You know, not just the setting and theme, but the character animation itself. You know, they got the big kind of Western looking eyes. You know,
well, yeah.
it's a lot more cartoony than your
Well,
regular
yeah,
anime.
not only that, but, like, a lot of people like to categorize the big eyes thing as something that is specifically anime, when historically that's not true at all. Like, Tetsuka got the inspiration for drawing eyes like that from Disney, and how he was drawing his characters and whatnot. So, like, I don't know. Like, I think somewhere in like the 80s and 90s, it kind of became squarish shaped eyes at one point, which was kind of a very anime look. But like, I don't know, because like for me, like when I see the big eyes like that, especially on characters like Aiko and Suzy and everyone else in that cast, like it looks so great, and like it's one of those things where I kind of think a show like that kind of defines or does not need to be defined by a particular type of animation. It's just outside of this is a trigger property, and it looks really good. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, Yoshinari, he's a director. He really likes Western animation. Have you seen like the GIFs that he did on his Twitter thing of Western cartoon characters? Yeah, he's been doing a lot of those.
I think one of those, like that one of the Hulk, I think that was actually a cover for one like Marvel issue.
Yes, that was a cover at one point. I don't remember from which particular issue, but it's a good Hulk interpretation where it's one of those things I look at it and just like, man, I really wish they would do another like Marvel anime series that wasn't terrible. Like,
oh, remember Disc Wars?
hey, okay, here's the thing with Disc Wars. The episode with Deadpool is really good. Like,
okay, no, you're right. That episode was real good, but I was expecting that as like a line of just like, yeah, that was a thing. But you're like, okay, no, here's the thing about Disc Wars.
yeah, it's just like, I don't know, because like with Disc Wars, it was just, I don't know, like it was just like, hey, it's like Digimon Season 4, but instead of turning into Digimon, the kids turn into the superheroes, which are live actual people to begin with, that the kids just take control, like the heroes are being body snatched by these weird kids, and it's just, like, that's just a weird concept. Like, it really is.
So, I'd have to double check, but like, the Mega Man, like the I don't want to say Battle Network, like the Rockman, like EXE TV like anime that was running for a bit, also did a weird thing like that around the same time that season of Digimon did, where it basically just turned into a toku.
Yeah.
Where like they were like the person operating the like NetNavi was like physically manifesting the NetNavi around them as armor, of like them. It literally just turned into like animated toku around the same time. So I'd have to double check years, but like something was in the water back then, I guess. I don't know.
But yeah, they're also supposed to be coming out with another Marvel thing. We are getting dramatically off topic at this point, but like again, Little Witch Academia, it is quite good. And it's one of those things where it's just like, we could go into really big detail about characters and stuff like that, but this really is just one of those shows where it's just like, you know, just go watch it. It's really good. You'll enjoy it. Your grandma will enjoy it. Again, like, I think the only thing that would stop someone from watching this particular show is if they were a family that's just like, hey, we don't like magic anything in the house, so that's going to be like the one thing. You know? Like, if your parents aren't big into Harry Potter, like, they're probably not going to like this show either.
Don't remind me that those people are real. Don't do that.
So let's go ahead and dive into the Patreon questions that we got. So we got quite a few, so we're going to go ahead and spend a little extra time on this. And they're all about Little Witch Academia, so we're going to go ahead and jump off on this. So Daniel Preisner sent us a question, and it goes, the Little Witch Academia TV series comes to a perfectly satisfying conclusion. That said, there are certainly plenty of room for the story to continue. Do you think there is any chance Trigger ever makes any more Little Witch Academia, or is it time to move on?
I feel like they could... I don't necessarily want more with Akko as the focus. I would... like... Because I feel like... Not that she's done, but, like, I feel like if we went back to, like, her, like, unlearning lessons and just, like, continuing it for the sake of having the same dynamic of the show, I would rather... what's a good way to put this? Okay, you know how in, like, Read or Die the TV, you get, like, the three Paper Sisters, and then Yomiko comes back at, like, the very end of the season? Like that, except not terrible. Except not the worst thing I've ever seen.
Look, I'll be completely honest. I absolutely hate the Read or Die OVA to the point where I didn't even bother with the TV series. But that's just me. And that was Teenage Hitch, who thought, she has paper powers? That's fucking stupid. Why is paper cutting through steel? But anyway, that was past Hitch. I haven't seen it since.
I know some people like it, and I'm not gonna be... I feel like there are a bunch of things that I have watched where I'm like, there's a lot of people who like it, and it's okay that they're wrong. And I'm not willing to go that hard to bat for Read or Die the TV being that bad.
Right.
Like, I really like Yomiko as a character, and I really kind of fell in love with the OVA. And I got the manga, and I would buy all of the books if any of them were translated. But it's not... Like, what I would... Okay, back on topic for this. I feel like I would rather get, like... Rather than continuing just with Akko and, like, the rest of the cast, even though I do like them, I feel like it would be better if they were going to do more in this setting to have a new cast and bring the old cast back in, like, older and as supporting, rather than just, like... I don't want them just spinning the wheels on Akko, because we kind of ended the series in a really good place, and starting a new series in a way that would have to, like, put Akko in a position to, like, have the same sort of show structure would very much be like the start of a Metroid game, where you're just, like, don't have any of the shit from the last game, because I didn't need it, or I got blowed up. Ridley flew out of the space station, and now I don't have my magic. Like, I wouldn't want Akko to have all of the stuff that we got in this season stripped away for the purposes of having the show again. I would rather have someone new and have Akko show up as, like, maybe someone that the new character looks up to, and then meets Akko and is like, oh, I shouldn't look up to this person.
Yeah, that's fair. I think Akko's still a pretty strong character. I think the main cast, the current one, is still pretty strong and could probably, like, at least a movie, you know, maybe.
Right. And,
or something like that.
I'd be fine with that. Just not another 26-episode series.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's already got 25 and 2 OVAs. I mean, that's a pretty good run for a normal anime series.
Yeah, because, like, I think, like, if this is a series where we get a new movie of it every 3 years or so, I would be perfectly fine with that. And if it was just the main cast kind of going off on an adventure in the world, like, I would be okay with that. And, like, if you are going to do another Little Witch Academia series, I really think that maybe do a prequel, because, like, that episode where they're talking about the history with dragons in the schools, that's pretty interesting stuff, and I think you could probably flesh out a series just kind of about that, about the dragons and the school kind of conflicting with each other and why the school got into the place where they were at. Like, I think that could be interesting stuff, but I don't know about doing it like, hey, it's a season 2 of Little Witch Academia, and it's pretty much more of the same. Even though I'd probably watch it and still enjoy it, like, I would like to see either just, like, more in small doses, or just focus on other characters. Because I think this universe is big enough to do stuff like that. Alright, so I will preface this with that I didn't quite understand this question, but maybe it's because I haven't seen the second half of the series.
Okay,
so
shoot.
This is from Pause and Select. And Pause and Select ask, can Akko kill a basilisk? And if so, why is she British?
I feel like this might... When was this sent in? Was this sent in while it was airing? Because this might have been super topical when watching the show, but something that just didn't stick in my head.
This was sent within the last week, so...
Okay.
There was
a basilisk.
There was, yeah.
Okay.
And there are kind of British people, you know, like...
Wasn't it a cockatrice? Those are different.
Well, yeah, the cockatrice was in the first episode. I haven't gotten to a basilisk yet. I would like to think Akko could kill a basilisk. Just... I don't know, because, like, all I'm thinking of, like, maybe if you're making a Harry Potter connection or something like that, because there's a basilisk in the second Harry Potter book.
Oh, yeah, maybe.
Yeah,
British Harry Potter.
Yeah.
That's probably what he's going for. Yeah, she killed a cockatrice. I mean, that's pretty close to a basilisk. It also flies, and it's
Why is she
like
there's oh my god, there's definitely I feel like I'm looking at like I feel as though I'm looking at a jigsaw puzzle where all of the pieces are in front of me, but they're all like turned upside down, so that I can see that this goes together, but I don't see the image, and I can't. Okay, I feel like this person should get a mulligan, because if this was just a joke, then like, all right, cool, we goofed it. I'm sorry, my dude.
Yeah.
But like, if there was like an actual like funny conversation to be had here, I feel like they should get a mulligan on this one and just like.
Yeah, like I
Be
think
able to re-ask the question more specifically.
I think this is.
I feel bad because I don't feel like I'm just like gonna crap over this person's joke.
Well, I think
But I don't get it.
I
I'm
think
sorry.
this is kind of a jokey one, especially with how it ends with the
Okay.
why is she British? Which I mean, even in the dub, she's not really British or anything like that. But I mean, just
She is explicitly from Japan.
yes.
She is 110%
Yeah.
explicitly from Japan, to
Yep.
the extent that at one point Diana's like, "Yo, I went to your home country in the Far East one time."
But thank you for the question, pause and select. I quite enjoyed it. So our next series of questions are going to come from Lum Rambayasha, and the first question is: how would you compare the themes of Little Witch Academia to those of Gurren Lagann and Kill la Kill? Specifically, how each series handles their coming-of-age narratives and contracts free-spirited characters against a system that attempts to stymie their individuality.
Stymie?
Sure.
I mean, I don't have the text
yeah.
of the question in front of me.
Yeah.
It's fine. Let's just keep going. I'm sorry. Okay. I feel like I can put some thoughts together on this, but I feel like most of that would be that I feel like that Gurren Lagann is the only one that was kind of doing its coming of age thing as like the central thesis of the series itself, and thus kind of structures the entire show around that. Whereas Little Witch Academia and Kill la Kill both have other intended goals for the purpose of their series and the purpose of their narrative, and the coming of age for the protagonist is kind of incidental, so that they might be as part of a larger development, but I feel like they're not necessarily... I feel like Little Witch Academia is textually about Akko, and is about her growth as a character, but I feel like the people sitting down to write Little Witch Academia were not thinking each episode, how can we have Akko grow as a character, so much as here's some cool stuff we want to do, and just making it a good show. Because a lot of the times... I don't know how much of this is serious and how much of this is joking, but a lot of the time, like, people in Studio Trigger, and even like Gainax to an extent, when asked about like symbolism and meaning in their work, a lot of the times are like, "Oh, cool, that was there." Like where they just kind of like they just naturally understand to an extent how to construct a story and how to make it work and how to like make stuff tie together, and aren't necessarily conscious about every aspect of it and don't really care in some regards, which I mean, having just an innate understanding of how to construct a story and just doing it and nailing it, like, not nailing it, but like just not even having to think about it and doing it in such a way that is compelling to a large group of people, just like time and again, is like the goal. That's what you want. Like, ideally, you'd also understand why you're making the decisions you are, but like, if it works, who cares?
Right.
I feel like Gurren Lagann is the only one of those where the progression of the protagonist is like the central thesis of the entire thing. Whereas Kill la Kill, the goal of the writing and the goal of the show itself is not necessarily Ryuko's growth as a character. It's
like to serve the animation, to serve the...
It's to serve the animation, to serve like the plot, and to create moments for the characters that kind of flow to like...
Jokes. jokes.
Well, no, because like Kill la Kill does have some stuff going on where like clearly there was some thought put into it, because even if there was accidental themes like like me joking earlier of like like clothing as something that is like socially repressive but also like literally repressive and restricting, and like a literal and metaphorical prison of the human body is like a cool thing, but then they also just do it so that like they can have people be mostly naked. And like they don't necessarily utilize it to its fullest extent, because while it is a good thing that they're going in on, it's not really their goal. It's just like a sideline of something that they thought was cool. And like the extent to which that thinking creates a good show varies significantly from property to property.
Gotcha.
I feel like Little Witch Academia is structurally, a lot of it is them trying to like it is making a good story and it is making a good cast. I don't necessarily feel that it is entirely about Akko growing as a character so much as it is Akko's determination affecting the people around her, and sort of a unintentionally charismatic figure, and like just that sort of like good-natured, good-hearted determination. And she is bettered by her fellows, but also her fellows are bettered by her. It's not necessarily an individual growth so much as it is like a group and like trusting each other and like a collaborative growth sort of thing.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Right. To kind of add a little bit to that, one thing I do see as a similarity between these three shows is that they all pretty much follow the Joseph Campbell's Hero's Tale story type, which, if you don't know what that is, it is kind of a college level thing, or at least
the hero's journey, which is the monomyth, that whole thing. Which finish up with what you're going on, because I have some unrelated thoughts.
And like in my opinion, like Gurren Lagann is pretty much the anime equivalency of the Hero's Tale, like verbatim. Like it pretty much hits every single one of those notches and what needs to be a hero's tale. And Kill la Kill also kind of the same way to an extent, and with Little Witch Academia not so much, but I can kind of see it if you were to stretch a couple of things. But one thing that I do think is that when you have the main characters with all these shows, they all kind of have the same thing where they have this, you know, they are the protagonist who is capable of doing great things. And how each show handles it is pretty different. Because like with Simone in Gurren Lagann, it is pretty much a character who does not believe he is capable of being the chosen one. And then you have Kill la Kill, where the main character in that one, she pretty much knows that she's a badass, but could really kind of care less a majority of the time. And she kind of sees the whole entire thing as kind of a big inconvenience, which is kind of a fun thing with that show. And then you have Little Witch Academia, and Akko, she wants to do great things, she really does, but she doesn't have the capability of being that person, and so it is her striving to be the chosen one. And I kind of see that as like the big difference between these three different ways and how they do these stories, is that you have one who doesn't believe he is the hero, one who could care less, and the one who is desperately striving to be the hero. So like that's kind of how I see the differences between these particular three series. So
yeah.
So
no, the one thing I just kind of wanted to get into about like the hero's journey is that a lot of people kind of look at that as like I feel like a part of the intent was not like, this is how a story should be structured, but was like, look at all of these cultural myths and how they kind of all follow a similar structure, because it is something that is naturally compelling that people gravitate towards, and then people look at that and go like, oh, that's how I make the good story. And like, I feel like that's not maybe necessarily, because I feel like Gurren Lagann didn't try to do that. It just kind of, it's, like I said, I feel like a lot of the times, like, Trigger and Gynex people just do, and, like, don't necessarily think about all of the implications of what doing does, which is why a lot of individual moments and stuff feel real good, and don't necessarily feel disconnected as a whole, because it is something that emotionally flows, and there is someone thinking, like, well, this should happen, and not just doing it, like, on a whim. But, like, generally speaking, I feel like they very much write with their hearts in a lot of ways, is I guess a way to put that.
And
like,
when it comes to, because, like, I'll have, like, a whole entire spiel for an upcoming episode about Gurren Lagann, because the 20th anniversary is this year, or is it a 10-year? I forgot how old the show is. Because I don't want to say 20, because it was just like, you watched the show in high school, it better not be 20 years old.
CJ, my dude, my friend. It is the 20th anniversary. Like, we're like, Evangelion was like 22 years ago.
So it's a specific anniversary. Again, like I was scaring myself with the number 20, just putting that out there.
No, I'm not making fun of you. It's just like I'm sorry. The timeline where we go from like Evangelion was 1996. So the timeline where like 6 months after Evangelion is done, Gainax is like, all right, Gurren Lagann is like where we just skip the existence of like inspirational forces like Gaogaigar and just go right to Gurren Lagann is like really like entertaining in my opinion. But no, it's a 10-year anniversary. I'm sorry.
All right. So next question is something that we kind of already talked about. I have a little more thoughts on this, but do you believe Netflix was the best home for Little Witch Academia? I myself believe that it has a great all-ages appeal, and Netflix was the perfect platform to expose it to the widest possible audience.
Yeah, I mean, Crunchyroll is probably a little more niche than Netflix is. I guess Little Witch Academia deserves the biggest audience possible. It's kind of made for that. I'd hope that on Netflix it gets the biggest possible audience, and it isn't hurt by, not being streamed at the same time that it was airing.
Right. And my whole entire thoughts on this is pretty much that I think that Crunchyroll is great at what Crunchyroll does. I really do. But at the same time, they focus on a very niche market. And they're pretty much only going to be catering to the same types of people. Like, again, which is great, and I do think they do a really good job at what they do. But with Netflix, they go for everybody. And, like the question says, this is as wide as possible as you could possibly get with an anime. Like, I made the comparison a few episodes ago where I said, Netflix is the new Toonami. Like, when it comes to how shows get exposed nowadays, or at least new anime titles, it's primarily through Netflix with a lot of people, where they go through Netflix and they see a thing, because like it's not just that they'll watch the thing because it shows up in the anime section. They can throw Little Witch Academia into like the kids section, or they could throw it into the fantasy section, or they can throw it into just animation. Like they do such a really good job of widening the possibilities of people who would enjoy the show outside of just kind of labeling it as anime and it getting stuck with all the stigmatisms that come with that particular word for some people. Where it's just
it is that show, that rare show that actually can appeal to a whole family, and it deserves to be seen that way, I think.
Right.
I'm up for that. Yeah, no, I agree. Netflix, in the long run, is probably the best vessel for something like Little Witch Academia. And, I mean, I watched it. I can be annoyed, and I can think Netflix doesn't have good business practices, but, like, in the end, it doesn't really affect me, to be completely honest. I don't really think, like, the only scenario in which it would affect, like, the anime market is if, like, piracy actually stopped existing, which I don't believe that anime will ever be a large enough market in America to actually stop existing. I don't believe that the companies that bring this over will ever have the financial muscle to actually do that, unless there was some, like, federal government level stuff that made it a lot easier for them to, which I don't necessarily think is a bad thing. But I think like piracy in the long run is good for like artistic purposes of like preservation, because some stuff will just disappear and not. Little Witch Academia will probably be on Netflix for as long as Netflix is a thing, but like Netflix doesn't keep all its stuff. Like Netflix like cycles through a lot of content.
And to kind of
Little Witch Academia as a
to add to that idea. Like, Netflix has recently been really good about getting a lot of their original stuff on DVD and Blu-ray. So even if you have that idea of like, oh, this is going to fall out of their digital library, I'm pretty sure with this title in particular, they will give it a full release on Blu-ray and DVD and stuff like that. Now, don't hold me to that, but given Netflix's practices, I think they will with this particular series.
Oh, yeah.
No, that seems reasonable. Like, I completely see the viewpoint of, like, this sucks. I can't watch this until it's done. But, like, okay, no. Like, if you are the kind of anime fan who is in deep enough that you're thinking, I can't watch this the week that it airs in Japan, you can watch it the week that it airs in Japan. Don't lie. I know you. I know all you people. Don't look at me and lie to my face like that. But no, like, support the official release whenever possible. Whenever Little Witch Academia is actually out with the whole thing, I'll probably go through the whole thing dubbed, because I would very much like to experience it again. It's a good show.
Yeah.
Like, I honestly, for the long run, Netflix is probably the best vessel for Little Witch Academia in terms of, like, Netflix has incredibly large market penetration. It is a good family-friendly show that could be used to, like, onboard someone at an early age to the concept of, like, animation in a way that is not necessarily... Because even though it is, like, family-friendly and, like, could be construed as aimed at kids, it's not, but it could be construed as that by, like, a Western viewpoint. I feel like it is a very different kind of show than you would get than a similar, like, Magic Academy show that was airing.
Oh, yeah, it's well animated.
UK or something.
Are you saying Ween's Club isn't well animated?
Okay. Boy, okay, let's not. This is a
All
different... I feel the energy draining out of me in anticipation of this.
All right, yeah,
conversation
we don't need to go
there.
All right. So, our third question is going to focus on Diana. Diana is characterized much differently in the TV series than she was in the original films. Which interpretation of the character do you prefer?
Okay. I feel like she wasn't much more of, like, a... Like, was she... Like, okay, because here's the thing. When you're watching Little Witch Academia, like, the first time, and, like, going through it early, I feel like it would have been... Like, okay, I'm talking about the show, because that is what I've watched most recently. I feel like it would have been super easy to make Diana, like, basically just Draco Malfoy.
Right, and...
Or just basically
yeah,
that character.
Yeah, because that's pretty much what I was going to say. Because, like, in the OVA series, she is basically just a female Draco Malfoy.
Is she? I don't remember her being that much of a, like, an asshole, to be completely honest. Like, because the way that Diana gets presented throughout the show is, like, she has her two little flunkies who are shitting on Akko all the time. And she is, like, above that. And, like, she doesn't actually, like... She doesn't deny when someone does something good. Like, she doesn't, like, oh, you didn't actually do something good because you're not... If Akko does something good, Diana fucking immediately is like, I will give you credit for that good thing that you just did.
Right, that is something that kind of appears more in the TV series itself than it does in the OVA series. Because in the OVA series, she pretty much is just kind of... Like, she's not rubbing it in Akko's face about how much better that she is, but at the same time, she pretty much just fulfills an antagonistic, what you said. Roll.
Okay.
Words. Who needs them in a podcast? But yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on this particular one. Is like, yeah, there is slight difference. I do like her in the TV series, but that's because she has more airtime. They actually let her character kind of develop into
more, a little more fleshed out.
I feel like she's a lot more interesting. I feel like the take in the TV show is a lot more of an interesting take than just being an antagonist, of just being, like, basically Draco Malfoy, of shitting on the protagonist because they're lowborn or whatever. Like, I found Diana genuinely... Like, I never hated Diana in the show. In fact, I found her, like, super interesting for a lot of it. And even if she was, like, not on the opposite... Like, somewhat on the opposite side and, like, difficult and, like, was kind of a shit to Akko at points, it was never, like... It never felt, like, undue, because Akko fucks up a lot. Like, just a lot. Like, all the time.
Yeah, she deserves some of the punishment she gets.
She deserves some of that shit. Like, I really genuinely liked Diana, like, even, like, midway through the show. Like, I felt like it was an interesting take on that character, whereas rather than just having them be openly antagonistic, of, like, yeah, they're a highborn, like, rival-ish type character, and she doesn't really consider Akko a rival, but not because, like, she's too good. It's just like, no, that's not... I got shit to do. I'm busy. I don't have time to, like, worry about, like, competition. I'm just making myself better. Like, it's, like, she doesn't, like, her lack of antagonism is, like, kind of what I feel makes that kind of character interesting in this regard.
Okay. All right. And, Dan, any thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I was pretty much saying the same thing. Yeah, she's more fleshed out in the series.
We need to have you go first. We need to have you go first.
I went first in the last one. She's...
I'm sorry.
I like her in the show. Probably more than... She's a little more flat in the OVAs, I'd say. I like how she's animated in the OVAs, but the show, yeah, she's just naturally better written because it's a more long-form story.
All right, and the final question is something that we kind of already talked about. Do you see Trigger making a sequel season or a feature-length film? And or do you think that the franchise has run its course?
You have any thoughts first? Well, we did talk about this a little bit.
Yeah.
But I'm just wondering if you had anything more, like,
I'd like to see a film.
Okay. Okay. In my head, if there was, like, another movie or, like, a theatrical film... How to put this? Did either of you see Trigun Badlands Rumble?
Nah.
No.
Okay.
Me and Trigun don't get along, but that's a story for another day.
Okay, that's fair. Okay, I like Trigun. I can definitely see that viewpoint. Trigun Badlands Rumble is good and fun, but it is the most here's a movie I think I've maybe ever seen. Of, like, here's a movie. Look, this character's fine. This character's alive again. Everybody's happy. We're gonna have a fight, and there's a problem they gotta solve. Like, it's a movie. It's like, we wanted to make a movie, so we kind of reset to a previous status quo that is somewhat unclear for the purposes of having a movie, which is fine. Like, it worked well, but, like, I feel like anything, like a theatrical film for Little Witch Academia on top of what we have now, if it was sticking with the same cast, would kind of just feel like that, where it's like restructuring the world state for the purposes of making a movie. Which I'm not necessarily against, because I really like what Trigger has done with all of Little Witch Academia so far. I just, like, me sitting here right now, it's like, nah, I'm good. I can do without that. If you told me they were doing it, I'd be like, all right, let's see. And then I would watch it, and then I'd have an opinion on it.
For me, like, my biggest kind of thing is that I do not want a compilation film. Like, that is the big thing that I do not want from this particular series. Those
don't, like, as far as I'm concerned, like, I don't want a compilation film. What, that thing that doesn't exist? Like, those don't exist to me. Like, I just, like, that's not real. That's, who cares?
Yeah, like, and that's kind of the problem, is that Trigger has had kind of a history of doing that with some of their films. Like, you can say, like, they changed things around a little bit for the films, but...
Oh, I forgot about the...
But the thing is we're still compilation films. I would rather watch an original thing than just kind of retreading the same ground. Unless you're the Mobile Suit Gundam franchise, like, no, I don't like compilation films very much. But, to kind of branch it off, and hopefully Josh isn't listening, but, like, they're coming out with the Little Witch Academia PlayStation 4 game, and that looks really good. I'm really looking forward to that. So, like, I don't think that this is a franchise that's run its course at all. Because, like, when you have, like, a video game version, and the video game looks really good, and it kind of looks like a fun brawler, like, yeah, sure. Like, if you can branch off into either more mediums, or branch off the history of the series, yeah, sure. And this is a universe that they've established that can totally do that. So, yeah, I don't think this thing has completely run its course. Akko's story, maybe, but at the same time, I kind of want to see where things go at this point.
Yeah, the way I look at it, like, I really like the animation in the OVAs, and I'd like to see more like that. The TV series had some good moments, but, like, it wasn't super consistent probably in every episode. So if you could, have, like, a really good feature, with all the top talents, maybe Studio Pablo doing the backgrounds again. That would be really good.
All right. And those are all the questions from Long Ramayasha. Thank you very much for everyone who sent questions. We very much appreciate that. And we're going to come to the end of our show. And at the end of our show, we're going to give you that reminder again to go ahead and hit up our Patreon. Again, just $1 goes a long way for the site. All the money goes towards the back-end site kind of stuff, or just site maintenance. And we're also kind of looking to expand our podcasting hub and whatnot so that we can get even more stuff out to you. Imagine that. That's just crazy talk. But yeah, $1 goes a long way. And what you can get for that $1 is you can send a question to the show, and we'll talk about it for a little bit. Even if it does make us kind of confused, like Pause and Select's question does. But, still, we read it, and we had fun with it. And I think that's the important thing. Again. But, yes, go ahead and head over to Patreon. There will be links in the description for the YouTube, the blog, and pretty much everywhere else. That will take you to the Patreon. And if you search Patreon, it's Wave Motion Canon. Also, go ahead and hit up our YouTubes. It's Wave Motion Canon again. Search us on iTunes, Stitcher, all your other podcasting forums. Again, if you search Wave Motion Canon or WMC, you're going to find us. So, yes, and go ahead and tell your friends, hit us up on Twitter, and everything else. At the end of the show, we'd like to go ahead and take a moment to thank the $10 backers on our Patreon. So at this moment, we'd like to give a special shout out to Aname, Osama_A, Cornelia Natsidi, Chris Magnifito, and Ben Grant. Again, thank you very much for your donation. It means a lot to us and it helps us keep the site going. Again, thank you very much. So, where can they find you guys on the internets?
I'm Surrybot, Pat Suri Price, let's go with that. At Surrybot on Twitter is pretty much the only place you will see me lately. I will fix that in the near future.
Okay. And yourself, IBC?
I'm IBCF on Twitter at IBCF_, YouTube, IBCF, most other places.
Awesome. And I am CJ Hitchcock. You can find me at CJ Hitchcock on the Twitters. And I also have a YouTube, but I haven't really done much of anything with it. Like, if you want to go back and watch some of my old YouTube stuff, I don't know why you would, but it would be kind of cool. There's a review of Sonic the Hedgehog that's up there. Like Sonic the Hedgehog the movie. That's anime. And I don't know.
Which one's Sonic the Hedgehog?
Sonic the Hedgehog the movie, where he fights Metal Sonic.
Is there's a movie? There's a full movie?
Dude, like, I'll have to show you the links.
How long is it?
Okay.
Yeah, no. That's a hole in my knowledge.
Alright. Well, we'll see you guys next week, alright? So, have a good night, or good morning, whenever you decide to listen to this. Just be excellent to each other, alright? You better. Or else, just, you don't want to know. It'll be... Just be good to each other, goddammit.
We need a better sign off.
That was perfect. I don't know what you're talking about.
That old black magic's got me in its spell. That old black magic that you weave so well. Those icy fingers up and down my spine. The same old witchcraft when your eyes meet mine. The same old tingle that I feel inside. And when that elevator starts its ride, darling, down and down I go. Round and round I go like a leaf that's caught in the tide. I should stay away, but what can I do? I hear your name, and I'm aflame with such a burning desire that only your kiss can put out the fire. You're the lover, you're the lover, you're the lover, you're the lover I loving the spin I'm in. I'm under that old black magic called love. Yes, I'm in a spin. I'm loving the spin I'm in. I'm under that old black magic called love. Got me spinning, spinning, spinning around like an elevator's going down in this magic black magic called love.
This is like literally like final episode things if you want to tune out for a second. But also this is the end, so if you're listening, then you can just stop listening. But I'm over for you, CJ. So the end, like the second to last episode has like Akko gets the thing, and like magic just starts happening, and like flowers are blooming everywhere, and like just nature is like springing up over everything. And the final episode is like a big missile. There's like a big missile, and they gotta stop a big missile. And what I thought was going to happen for a bit, that I thought would have been way cooler, is like the end of that episode was just like all of the, like Akko has the grand magic thing, and all this nature is spreading, and I kind of expected it to cut back to like a town somewhere else, and the nature just kept spreading, and it kept to a city, and the nature just kept spreading, and like the final problem they had to solve is that, oh no, there's too much magic. And like that, just like the way that visual was done at the end of the episode of just like because it's the end of oh god, I'm blanking on the name of that also that, but the Miyazaki movie, the Ghibli movie,
No.
Princess Mononoke.
No, okay. Why am I blanking on the name? Where they, like, the family is off somewhere, and at the end they're going back to their car, and, like, everything has been, like, overgrown, and it looks like it's been, like, 50 years.
No, you're talking about Spirited Away.
Yes. Why did I blink on
That's the most popular one. And, like,
it didn't occur to me that you could forget that.
None of you...
Yeah.
None of you remembered Spirited
Yeah,
Away.
but the thing is that you said nature,
Okay.
like, you were making a comparison to nature, so we were just going through our mind of, like, all
'cause
the nature-related
but,
Ghibli
like,
movies.
what I was expecting... Okay, fair. You know what? Fair. I'll take that L. Okay. What I meant was, like, the way that was animated at the end of that episode felt like that bit at the end of Spirited Away happening, like, before our eyes, and I would have liked to see that on a larger scale. But then we got, like, a cool missile fight, I guess, which was alright. It's, like, really weird to say, it's like, and then the witches fight a missile. And actually, I kind of liked it.
It was good.
Like, it was cool.
I haven't seen it yet, so when you say the witches fought missiles, the first thing that came to my head was strike witches, and I instantly kind of got sick
No,
in my
they
mouth.
fight. They okay.
So-
One, okay. Thank you for reminding me that strike witches exists, and now I will spend the next bit forgetting that. But no, it's one missile. It's a singular missile. It's like it is a singular. They're fighting the one. It's
a monster
only
missile.
the one, and it's fucking. It does some bullshit. It's kind of good. But yeah, okay. That's all I wanted to bring up. Is I thought that was a cool visual thing that I wish they did, but they didn't. But it was still good anyway.
Okay.